So, what problems face the prospective world dominator? It seems to me there are two main issues. Firstly, that of controlling such a large population. 7 billion people is not inconsiderable. Second problem is that of resistance. How will you deal with those things? Now, my method of taking over the world may be a little long-winded, but I think you can deal with both of these things ably and fully. So, the first step in world domination is to get myself superpowers. Superpower rule. I'm talking things like command of earth, air, fire, and water, as well as electrical powers and psychic abilities like telekinesis and telepathy. Step 2 is to build 2 distinct giant clone armies. The first one we'll call the Marauders. They will be well equipped for a kind of modern army. And the second army we'll call the Sentinels. These will be a lot smaller than the first, but then they will be a hell of a lot better equipped. So what we'll do is the Marauders, like I said, they'll be well equipped for modern army, and the Sentinels will have kind of powered armor suits, sort of like Iron Man, but way more awesome looking and better armor. So I myself will also have one of these suits, and this will be a way to channel my abilities, because I don't really want to give away superpowers immediately. So the plan is, the Marauders, this giant army, will be big enough to invade every single major global population center simultaneously. Having carried this out, they will then spread out from these populations to completely colonize the land. While this is going on, the Sentinels will build a floating island in the middle of the Atlantic, and on there they will build a fortress, normally like an old school castle style, with turrets and battlements and everything. This will be my base of operations. Now, the key difference between the two armies, the Marauders and the Sentinels, is that the Marauders will not be tied to me in any way, shape, or form. The Sentinels, on the other hand, having the same armor as me, will be very much tied to me. They will be very much my army. So while the Marauders are tearing the place up, this will inevitably lead to resistance. So how do I deal with that? Well, it's quite simple, really. I go and join them. Taking myself and my combat-orientated powers and small squads of the Sentinels, I will join the resistance movements across the globe, using my powers to help ward off the advances of the Marauders. Now, I will never actually make them win. The resistance movements will still very much be on the back foot. I will only help ward off the advances of the Marauders. While this is going on, I would be surreptitiously using my psychic powers to kind of suggest trustworthiness in myself. So people will just accept me, they will accept my clone army. While this is going on, I will be persuading them that they should come and live away from the mainland on my floating island where they can be safe and defended against the Marauders. While this is going on, so I would transport people onto the island and spread myself around, going around to various other resistance groups to bring them over. Now the idea is that the initial invasion will wipe out a massive amount of humankind. But if too many survive for the island to sustain itself, that's where its location comes in handy. Because if there are too many for the island, I'm sure the journey across the Atlantic can be very perilous. So, what happens once the population of the island is settled? We're at capacity, everything's been dealt with, the Marauders have the land, and the Sentinels are helping defend the island. I would like to keep things simple. Fairly simple life. Not simple, kind of poor and run down. Simple, comfortable. People would be reasonably comfortable quarters. People with daily life would consist of growing food and maintenance on the island, that kind of thing. Just make sure that any kind of thoughts of rebelling against me are non-existent. Possibly also set up some kind of entertainment venue as well, which would play my preference of things, obviously. Now, should the thought of rebellion arise in anyone, should we get a small rebellion committee, then there's a simple way to deal with them. If there are multiple committees, play them off against each other. And if it's just the one, make them tear themselves apart. Because, hey, gotta have some fun, right? So what about the long game? What happens when we settle into a comfortable routine, day in, day out? When the Marauders attacking to keep people on the island becomes just another thing to deal with? What happens if I get bored, or when I reach the end of my life? Whichever comes first. Well, I figure, if I've gone to the effort of taking over the world, especially in such a destructive manner, well, I clearly don't give a toss about humanity. So, when I feel the time is right, I will initiate what I like to call a clean slate. An all-out, massive psychic pulse spreading across the globe to wipe out anything human, including the clones. This will also be linked to a series of explosives to completely obliterate the island. Because I know my domination of the world can't last forever. It would have to end at some point. And if it has to end, might as well make it go out with a bang.